Welcome back to another episode of Gamification. Today we're diving into a hot-button issue that's got gamers shouting louder than a rage quit in Elden Ring. Game price hikes. Back in my day, games were cheaper. Let's rewind to the 1970s. The first ever commercial video game, Pong, sold for $20. Adjusted for inflation, that's about $120 today. Yep, even then, gaming wasn't exactly cheap. Fast forward to the golden era of the 90s and early 2000s, and most AAA games were retailing at $50 to $60. Pretty consistent, right? But here's the kicker back then. The cost of making a game was, let's just say, peanuts compared to today. Think thousands versus the hundreds of millions we see now. Fun fact, did you know that making Pac-Man costs $100,000? Meanwhile, The Last of Us Part 2 had a reported budget of $100 million. That's not just a jump, that's a rocket launch. The true cost of gaming. All right, let's break this down. Why are games so expensive to make these days? It boils down to three words: development, marketing, and upkeep. Development involves hiring massive teams of highly skilled developers, artists, writers, and more. A typical AAA studio employs hundreds of people, each earning a decent salary, hopefully. Then there's the tech. Studios are using cutting-edge tools like Unreal Engine 5, motion capture suits, and sometimes even AI tech for NPC behaviors. This stuff isn't cheap marketing. You know those insane cinematic trailers that make your jaw drop? Those can cost millions to produce. And don't even get me started on the promotions, influencers, and events like E3 or Gamescom. Finally, upkeep. Games don't just release and call it a day anymore. There's post-launch support, DLCs, patches, and you guessed it, microtransactions to keep the money flowing. What if GTA 6 costs $100? $100 for GTA 6. At that price, Lucia and Jason better drive me to work every morning. So, Rockstar's been hinting at a possible $100 price tag for GTA 6. Cue the internet's collective meltdown. But let's be real for a second. This game is rumored to have cost $1 to $2 billion to make. That's more than the GDP of some small countries. Would $100 be justified? Maybe. But will people pay for it? Probably. After all, gamers shelled out for $70 titles like Hogwarts Legacy and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. And those weren't even multi-billion-dollar projects. Inflation and global economy. Thanks to rising costs across the board, from electricity to office space, game studios are feeling the pinch. Add in global economic woes like recessions and the pandemic aftermath, and it's no wonder some companies are upping their prices. But there's a limit. If games get too expensive, players might opt out, and that's bad news for everyone. Are video games still profitable? On average, gamers in the US spend about $220 annually on games. That sounds like a lot until you remember how much games cost to make. Many studios, especially indies, are operating on razor-thin margins. And here's a sobering stat: over 70 game studios have shut down in the past 3 years due to financial struggles. Fixing the issue. So, how do we fix this? Here are a few ideas. Subscription services, Xbox Game Pass, and PlayStation Plus are already changing the game by offering a Netflix-like model for gaming. More studios could adopt this approach. Better budget management. Studios need to stop throwing money at features nobody asked for, such as NFTs. Transparency. Gamers are more likely to support higher prices if they understand where their money is going. Imagine if Rockstar released a behind-the-scenes doc explaining why GTA 6 costs $100. We'd still complain, but at least we'd get it. Crowdfunding. It worked for Star Citizen. Okay, bad example, but you get the idea. The golden price tag. So, what's the magic number? If $60 was the standard for 2 decades, could $80 be the new sweet spot? Or do we stick with $70 and call it a day? Honestly, it's going to vary by region, game type, and consumer expectations. But one thing's for sure, no one wants to pay $100 for a game only to be hit with microtransactions. All right, gang, that's a wrap on today's episode of Gamification. Game price hikes might sting, but understanding the why behind it can make it easier to stomach. or at least easier to rant about on Reddit? What do you think is a fair price for a game in 2025? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, happy gaming.